Fabulous LJ here. Hope you're having a good 2022. Mine has been better. I've had better New Year's. So I just wanted to come on and do a bit of a video. It's going to be a bit bitty, but it's going to be sort of a complete health update from all the way from December, November time to now. I had planned to send this video out before Christmas, but then my body. So, if we start at the very beginning. I was due to have my hip replaced in 2019. Then I had problems with my shoulders, blah blah. If you want to know about it, I will put a link to the story time video up the top so you can hear all the background. But I was due to have my hip done. It's been postponed for many reasons. Last year, so 2020, December, I had spoken to my hip consultant and he was like, right, I think physically you're okay. What we need is to make sure that the lupus is under control so that we can operate without it being too much of a strain. So I was like, brilliant. So middle of 2021, I'm not used to the new year yet. Middle of 2021 they said, okay, your lupus is deemed as under control by medication. Doesn't mean that you are symptomless, but it means it is under control in terms of your blood levels and everything. So they wrote to the hip consultant and said, look, we're happy, it's under control, do you? So I go to see the hip consultant in December of 2021. It's really nice. The hospital was all Christmassy, although one of the clocks wasn't working. And they sent me for updated x-rays. So I had those, got to put on a snazzy gown, you know, the whole shebang. Finally spoke to the consultant and we were talking about how the symptoms are and how both my hips are hurting now, but the left is definitely still worse, but the right is starting to cause me sort of considerable pain. And he had a thought that perhaps the problem is that I have shallow sockets or hip dysplasia, I think it's called, where basically the socket doesn't cover the whole joint, it only covers half of it. So that's why you get the pain and the rubbing and everything else. So he was like, right, I'm going to send you for a contrast spec CT, where they basically will be able to see. So, a week later, I was so shocked. A week later, in December, I get this appointment. It's at a more local hospital, so that's brilliant. So, got a taxi down there. Hey all! I'm here at the hospital, nice and early, this Monday morning. Sitting by this beautiful Christmas tree, which is lovely. Unfortunately, I'm on my own today. The wall building has taken a lot longer than anticipated because of numerous trips to get more sand and various other things. And so unfortunately Dee couldn't come with me today, and Stu is back at work, so I'm here on my own. So I have my book, I have my phone, I have my headphones, and hopefully the day won't be too stressful. So I'm going to finish off my hot drink and then go inside. And I went in and they injected me with stuff, but the stuff was radioactive and I really wish I'd been able to film it. Okay, so step one is done. I have had the radioactive injection. So yeah, they put a cannula into my hand eventually. Couldn't find one in my elbow, couldn't find one in my hand, couldn't find one in my elbow. Eventually found one in my hand. And so they put the little cannula in, and they flushed it through, and they got out this locked radioactive box. I was just going to film it, it was really cool. So it came locked in this little box with radioactive sign on it, and the actual syringe itself was wrapped in a, I'm assuming some sort of lead or something to block the radioactivity. It's a little concerning. I would have thought the box would be enough, but apparently not. I'm guessing it's to protect the staff who have it regularly in their hands, but yeah. So yeah, that was done. The flushing of it was just very cold. It stung a little bit, but it was mostly just cold. And then they put the radioactive stuff in, and it was even colder. And then I got this huge head rush, like, I can't even explain it. I thought I was going to pass out. It was, but in a nice way. It's really hard to explain, because it wasn't a nice feeling, but it was at the same time. It was kind of like a warm and cosy woozy rather than a I'm going to pass out, if that makes sense. I'm hoping that makes sense. So my appointment was at 10 o'clock. It is now 10:20, so they did that nice and quick, and I have to come back at 12:30. So I'm going to go and find a cafe and sit down and eat and read my book and come back then. So I'll see you in a little bit. So then, as I said, I had to sit around and wait, which was irritating, but I managed to find a place to sit and read and have some lovely lunch. I may be a little overexcited because they have tiger bread in Subway now, and I didn't realise, and so I'm going to have tiger bread Subway for lunch. Yummy! So after being injected with radioactive dye, in the actual clinic there are two toilets, the hot and the cold, and the hot was the only one I was allowed to use because my pee possibly contained radioactive elements, and I have to admit, I don't know if it was my imagination or what, but there seemed to be a slight green tinge to it when I did go to the loo. Not sure if that's too much information, but went back in, and after using the hot toilet, it was time for the scan. All done and in absolute agony, so I will update you when I get home and I've had some painkillers and I don't feel like I want to cry. Yeah. So I went in for my spec CT, and unfortunately was asked to lay in some very, very uncomfortable positions, including one where I had to have my hands above my head for over half an hour. And then the guy just expected me to jump up and move despite me explaining, my mobility issues with my shoulders. It took me about 5 minutes to get into the position. It took me about 10 minutes to get out of the position. And as I said, I was on my own, so it was a bit of a day. I also had to have my legs in an odd position, so my hips were very, very painful. So yeah, I was a little bit teary in that clip. I did get home, take some painkillers, and I went straight to bed. So here is the update that I didn't do. So yeah, unfortunately that didn't quite go to plan, but it was done, it was out of the way, it was fine. I did then spend 2 to 3 days in absolute agony, just moving my arms, my legs hurt so much, but yeah, eventually got over it. So then, in the run up to Christmas, I'm trying to be really careful because we're going to be seeing family. So we were making sure to isolate as much as possible. We were doing regular testing. Everything was fine. I come down with sort of like a bit of a sore throat, no temperature, but negative for COVID. Did a PCR test, negative for COVID. It was brilliant. But I just didn't feel very well. Hence why this video wasn't put out then. Okay. Christmas Day, we go and see some family. There was 6 of us. So it wasn't a big group. And then on Boxing Day I get a sore throat. I was like, oh great, it's back again. But hey, at least I had Christmas Day, it's fine. And so the sore throat carried on for a couple of days. I was still testing every day just because we'd seen people, and with the lupus and everything else that I have, and the arthritis and all this other stuff, and the medications that I'm on, I have a compromised immune system, so I have to test every day. And so, yeah, I was testing, I was negative. My throat got so bad I couldn't eat anything. Spoke to a doctor. When my other half looked in my mouth, he could see the white spots on my tonsils. So I had tonsillitis. So the doctor sent me some antibiotics. Took those. I was starting to feel better because that was on the 29th. Yeah, in the morning. So I got the antibiotics that lunchtime. So I had 2 of the 3 doses on the 29th, 3 of the doses on the 30th, and the morning of the 31st I started to feel better. I was like, this is brilliant. Mid-afternoon I developed this horrific cough, just out of nowhere I started coughing. I had a coughing fit and then I couldn't stop coughing. I was like, oh my god, you've got to be kidding me. So we were supposed to go and see friends that night because we were still negative. We were going to go and see some friends who had also been very, very careful because of my health needs. They know they're amazing. And so did the COVID test before we could go, and nothing. Couldn't go. I was positive. Other half still negative, thankfully, but I was positive. And as the evening wore on, I felt worse and worse and worse. Now, because I am immunocompromised, I received a message that they are treating patients with COVID now who are clinically extremely vulnerable, which is what I'm classed as. So I already had a PCR test at home because they posted me one to say, if you get any symptoms, test. So I tested the PCR, sent it off. I did the lateral flow, recorded it, fine. Obviously got all the information and support from the COVID stuff of staying home, what support do you need, blah blah. Day 4, my cough was so bad and my chest hurt so much I could barely breathe. I was wheezing, it was horrible. So I phoned 111 and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not really sick enough to go to the hospital, but breathing is a problem. My temperature is going from hot and sweaty to cold and shivery. My breathing is really problematic and this cough is horrible. So they sent me some antibiotics because she said just over the phone it sounded like it was possibly bronchitis because of the cough and the wheezing. So she sent me some antibiotics and she sent me an inhaler, a Ventolin inhaler, to sort of try and relax and release my breathing. Now, I had a Ventolin inhaler when I was a kid, so I know, obviously I reminded myself how to do it, but I know how to use it. And it's really weird still being on that now. Where are we, 3 weeks later? Thankfully this is all that's left of my cough and it's only when I talk, which is really good. And the reason for that is because on day 5 of testing positive, I got a phone call inviting me to go and have some treatment for COVID. So as I said, I'm classed as clinically extremely vulnerable in the UK because of all my underlying health conditions. And so because of that, they invited me to go in and have this medication, which... No, sorry, that is just jogging the camera, isn't it? I'm trying not to vibrate this too much and make you guys feel sick. Yeah, so I went in. I thought I was going to have some tablets, like a review and some tablets, but I went in for some medication. And when I tell you it was like zombie apocalypse movies, I'm going to show you these pictures because we drove up to the hospital. It was around the back of the hospital and they had like road markers set out. There was big pylons and stuff. It was weird. It was like a zombie apocalypse movie, basically. And then they ushered me into this little back room, which was absolutely freezing because the door was open. But you know, they put up these beautiful flower dividers, so it wasn't that bad. And I was given an infusion of this medication. And what it does is it basically binds to the COVID molecules, and it is 70% more effective at reducing hospitalisations with COVID. And I have to say, within a day, my cough was significantly lowered. Significantly. Like, it was pretty instantaneous. The cough has followed on. My temperature is still a big problem. So when I was there, they advised me to get a thermometer, like a proper digital thermometer, and a pulse oxygen meter, because my chest was still so worrisome. And my pulse oxygen needed to be 97 or above. It is currently 95, 96, which is problematic. But because I'm feeling okay, I don't need to go into hospital. They said if I start to feel worse again and my pulse oxygen is still at that level, I need to go to the hospital immediately. But because I am getting better each day, they just say I have to track it for every 4 hours, which is fun. But yeah, so I now have a pulse oxygen meter at home, which is cool, and the temperature thermometer. So yeah, my temperature is fluctuating big time. 1 minute I'm sweaty, 1 minute I'm shivering. But the cough is pretty much gone. My chest is still, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I can hear it, but that's because I'm aware of it. My chest is still a bit. But overall I feel much better now 3 weeks later. So yeah, that was my Christmas. Cold, then tonsillitis, then COVID. Which thankfully didn't turn into bronchitis because I didn't want another one. So we are now the 17th of January. I haven't returned to work yet because my breathing, my chest and my temperature just make it not plausible. But my cough is 100% better. It is now only when I talk for a long period of time that I actually cough, so it is definitely much better. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. I haven't had any results from the hospital scan at all. That video, as I say, was supposed to go out before Christmas, so I apologise for the long gap. I'm hoping that this will answer where I've been, why I've been so quiet, and everything else. And yeah, I'm hoping at some point to be able to go back to work, but I am sleeping like 20 hours a day. I'm so tired. It's now about, I'd say 60% of the time I make it onto the sofa, but 40% of the time I just spend the entire day in bed, and when I'm awake I just watch something on my phone. The fatigue is killing me. The temperature makes life very difficult to do anything anyway, but the cough has subsided, and I'm so pleased the cough has subsided because that was making lying down very difficult, making talking very difficult. So I still have the inhaler, I still have to monitor my pulse oxygen levels, and I'm just hoping that the last bit of antibiotics, which I think went out on Wednesday, or just finally kick the last of whatever is still around. But I have to say the infusion was very, very helpful. So if you do have underlying health conditions and you are suffering with COVID, or you do come down with it, which I hope you don't, but if you do, in worst case scenario, please look up treatment for COVID. I'll put the link in the description, because you can have, there's 2 different types, there's an infusion and there's tablets, and they're both apparently very effective. When I had it, on the 5th, I think, of January, it had only been used as an outpatient treatment for 10 days. They'd been using it in hospital with great success, so then they moved it to outpatients. And it, as I say, it had a 70% chance of reducing hospitalisations, which is fantastic. So yeah, I'm still struggling to do a lot, but I'm definitely better than I was 2 weeks ago, so I can't really knock it. It's just so frustrating to be back at this point where I'm sleeping all day every day because I can't do anything. I can't go to work, I can't be functional. Like, I've barely done any crafting because I have so few hours a day where I can sit and do something. it's, yeah, I haven't touched resin in well over a month. I'm just so tired and so lethargic and so, and I've lost all motivation to do things because, like, I know if I do something, it's going to mean I'm tired quicker. So, yeah, but I am improving. I just want to thank everyone here and on Discord for all their kind words. You guys are lovely, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you very soon, hopefully with a much happier update. So I hope you have seen the spooky box unboxing, which was my last video. I hope you enjoyed that. As I say, my channel is still going to be all about me and my health. It's just, there's going to be some extra fun bits that I found. Yeah. I will speak to you all soon. I hope you're having a wonderful 2022, that it's treating you well. And yeah, I'll speak to you on the next one. Lupy love.